So the first thing that I think is interesting for you to know, if you know, you should hopefully know KNIME already. If you don't, we're outside and you can come and find us and learn some more. But recently we announced a 20 million investment in KNIME, which means that we're growing as a company. And yeah, we'd be interested to tell you more about that if you have any questions. So the KNIME Analytics platform, I think almost all of you have heard of before. That's really the centerpiece of our software. That's an open source bit of software for doing your data analytics. And today I'm going to talk about using the KNIME server along with the KNIME Analytics platform to do some more cool stuff. So the KNIME server, I think also last year I plugged the REST API for the KNIME server. Again, I'm happy to demo that. But this time I'm going to mainly use the web portal, which is down here in the bottom there. And there's two new ways to get hold of the KNIME server via the AWS Marketplace and also via the Azure Marketplace. And you can basically now go there and you can launch a KNIME server on an hourly basis, or you can run it for an entire year. If you want to know more about that, I'd be happy to demo that and show you how to do it. Since moving to the cloud means that you also probably have lots of your data in the cloud. We also now have connectors, for example, to connect to Amazon S3, Microsoft Azure Blob Storage, and SQL Server, and a bunch of other kind of new technologies, for example, like Redshift are on the way. So that's the kind of product side of things, and now I want to talk about actually doing a small case study. And what we want to do in this case study is start with a PDF with medicinal chemistry patent, or patent there for medicinal chemistry application. And we want to extract the structures from the patent, and then we want to identify the key compound that's interesting in that patent. So for this particular example, we're going to take Celebrex, and we're going to use the KNIME nodes from Chemaxon and Infocom. And here we're basically going to use the document extractor to read the PDF file. We're going to then pull out all of those compounds, generate the smiles, and kind of pick out the unique compounds. So it's a pretty simple workflow in some senses. And from that, we come up with basically a bunch of structures, and some of that's probably interesting, and a bunch of the stuff we really don't want to see. So the question is, how can we actually clean up this data? And we want to do things like obvious things like removing molecules with attachment points, which is, again, fairly straightforward to do with some KNIME nodes. But then some of it is a bit more down to the user's kind of intuition. And so we want to make it easy for a user to kind of put their intuition into the analysis here. And so instead of picking some hard and fast rule based on the number of heavy atoms, rotatable bonds, and number of rings, we want to let the user kind of do that interactively. And we basically then have kind of two approaches that we might follow. So we might want to take the compounds in the patent that have the most nearest neighbors and say they're the kind of interesting things. Or we may want to also use metrics from the network. And we may just want to browse the data a bit more. So in the first screenshot, we've basically built a KNIME workflow that's then deployed on the KNIME server via the KNIME web portal. And in this case, you can now basically see there's a parallel coordinates plot here where you can kind of look at things like the number of heavy atoms, the molecular weight, rotatable bonds, number of rings, and actually the page in the patent. And you can then interactively filter these, and when you change your interactive filters, then you'll see the data in the table change and the highlights on the graph here change. So you can kind of interactively explore your data and look for the interesting stuff. There's also then things like you might want to do that in this network view. And so in this case, actually this is from using the Tarsiva patent. And in that case, I've just highlighted and selected these kind of very highly connected things from my network view. And then I can actually look at the compounds down here and see that they're all pretty related compounds that we're probably pretty interested in from looking at the looking at the pattern. So that's a very quick overview of the kind of thing that you can do with the web portal, basically allowing so one expert user to build something very complex and difficult to build, and then apply that via the web portal and deploy that to many end users very straightforwardly. So that's the real take-home message from today. We've got that demo available on my laptop. So if you want to come see and learn how we do that, then I'd be happy to demo that on the KNIME booth outside. So thanks very much.